Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Patton. I'm part of Group 4 with Rachel Montoya and Robert Campos, and we are leading this week's discussion dealing with Chapter 4 of both texts. So I thought I would start off by discussing Chapter 4 of Active Learning, which is about connecting reflection and action. And I feel like this chapter got pretty meaty. I thought it was a powerful chapter. I kind of had been thinking about how we actually do this youth participatory action research thing, and I feel like this chapter is about that. One powerful point that I connected with was how students owned their expertise about their communities through these activities that they, these structured activities that they did, and showed that they were invested in their community and its fate when given the opportunity to share their knowledge and applied it towards developing an action plan to improve their neighborhood. I felt particularly connected with this because I liked the idea that students are really looking at and being present in their communities. And I also kind of connected with this personally because I work at an independent school, which is kind of a polite way of saying a private school. And I feel like so much of our energy is focused on preparing these kids so that they can go to college somewhere else. And so often they don't return to their communities and give back where they grew up and where they lived. And in this way, I feel like we lose, New Mexico loses a lot of really shining stars. So pedagogy as practice is all about connecting the research to reality. Another point that I connected with that I thought was really poignant was this section on Paulo Freire and the pedagogy of praxis, and how a pedagogy of praxis connects critical reflection about student researchers' own social conditions with collective action to transform those conditions. I felt like this is kind of a powerful statement that, again, these are students who live in a place or live in a community, and they are using their knowledge of that situation to really, really change the situation itself. There were a lot of points that I connected with in this chapter. Forgive me, I have to use my phone. In talking about this participatory action research project, one of the sections that I highlighted was that one of the project's goals is to promote an ambition in the student researchers to give back to both their community and their school and to develop their mentorship and leadership skills. So again, I feel like this connects with the idea that these students are giving back to their community, and they're also giving back to each other and inspiring one another, and I found that really, really meaningful. And at one point, one of the educators, Rashna, talks about how they work from an assets-based approach, and that they value this idea that all young people have something really important to say. I found that really kind of exciting to think about youth and how we have things to learn from them as well. So I apologize that I am going so slow. Videoing myself is still kind of new. The other text, Teacher Action Research, Chapter 4 was a lot about validity, which I kind of struggle with. My first thought in reading this chapter was, how do you give validity to feelings? How do you kind of quantify something that's just not quantifiable? This was a really detailed chapter about different forms of validity as well. And most of all, I think that I struggle with the idea that my perceptions or my feelings would be considered valid in a research study. So I'm going to switch over to this book. One quote that I liked about this, which was actually from Mishler, is that Mishler's work suggests that validation is not a statistical property, but rather a social, mutual, and cumulative process of formulating and implementing practice, collecting on the data on the results of implementing practice, sharing and discussing the results, refining the questions, and trying out recalibrated practices, always striving for better and more valid practice based on the analysis of data. I thought that this was really interesting because it's saying that just kind of the reworking of your project, kind of the rethinking, reworking, trying again, gives validity. So that was mainly chapter 4 of Teacher Action Research, was dealing with validity and the many different types. So now we're at my questions, and I have 2 questions. The first one is, what do you do to make youth in your classroom or community feel capable, valuable, and empowered? And what do you do that might perpetuate the idea that youth need adults to tell them what to do? The second question I have is, how would you measure the validity of an action research project that you conducted? Do you feel like any one type of validity holds more weight than others? I believe that he lists 12 different types of validity, and I was just kind of curious if you connect more with any one of those 12 types. So I'm excited to see your answers, and thank you for putting up with all of my ums and awkwardness. Thank you.